Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with the Marines ambushed by the Japanese on Bougainville, talking about Lieutenant, I'm trying to remember the name here, I know it was down here, Lieutenant Lansley and his buddy Private First Class John V. Mahoney. But we're now on to bitter fighting centers around Chinese City. December 1943, recapture of Chengget. I don't know how to pronounce that. Chongta? We'll say Chongta. On November 25th, the Japanese, making considerable use of paratroopers, had captured and taken possession of the city of Chongta, important as the center of rice-producing district. On November 27th, a very heavy counterattack was launched and over 5,000 of the enemy were killed. The Chinese had succeeded in cutting off all communication except one over the lake of Tongting, and another by trail skirting the lake's western shores. It was alleged that the enemy were making use of poison gas shells. On November 30th, bitter hand-to-hand fighting was taking place in the streets of the city. By December 1st, the Chinese forces under General Yu Changwan, supported by American aircraft, drove the enemy entirely from the city. The Japanese retreated to a point 2 miles north. By December 3rd, the city had again fallen into the hands of the Japanese. Less than 300 men of the Chinese 57th Division survived. On December 9th, the city changed hands yet again, and General Hsu Yuk stated that the Chinese had suffered very heavy in the action, their losses far exceeding those of the enemy. But the importance of the city was such that it was felt it must be retaken at all costs. The picture shows Chinese refugees re-entering Chengta. So yeah, a lot of these Chinese battles, lots of casualties for the Chinese. Really, their greatest strength is their manpower. Not to say that the Chinese don't have decent fighting troops. They do, but the Japanese are just a little bit more skilled at war than the Chinese were. Now, by this point, obviously, the Chinese have been getting much better because they've been fighting so long. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate the amount of death that happens in China. I believe it's the second nation that has the most deaths. So the first is the Soviet Union. They have I think the estimate is around 16 million deaths or so by the end of this war. Staggering. The amount of people. It is crazy. China, I know, has quite a few too. I think 10 million. I could be wrong about that. But yeah. There's a saying not saying, I guess, but a quote from Joseph Stalin himself, who kind of sums it up when we look at those numbers, really. And he said, one death is a statistic, and many deaths... No, my bad. I said the quote wrong. I got ahead of myself. He said one death is a tragedy. A lot of deaths are a statistic. So, now, did he actually say that? Who knows? But I would say that's pretty true. A lot of the time when we look at the numbers of the Second World War, we get to these numbers where we can't really comprehend it. Like, our brain just can't comprehend that many people. And so when we look at these numbers, we're just like, oh, that's like 16 million. And we don't realize how many people that really is. You know, it's just absurd. And very unfortunate for all those who lost their lives in a, truthfully, pointless conflict. I don't understand. I don't understand why we fight, but that is just the nature of being human, I guess. Interlude at Tehran. December 1st, 1943. December 1st, 1943. Oh, sorry about that. It is not wanting to. There it goes. The Commander-in-Chief honors the Allied commander. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, shown as he awarded the Legion of Merit to General Dwight D. Eisenhower during the general's visit to the conference of Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. The ceremony took place in the garden of the Russian embassy at Tehran, where the Allied conference was held, and it was during the sessions at Tehran and Cairo that General Eisenhower was made Allied Commander-in-Chief. This is an interesting picture, though, actually. It's nice to see Dwight D. Eisenhower. Two presidents here, but there's kind of a interesting story. So obviously he's giving this awards sitting down. Now, why would he do that? As we know, FDR suffering greatly, a lot of pain, things like that. So he can barely stand. So he's got to sit down and give these awards like this, which to a lot of people would have been kind of rude, per se. But obviously the president's doing as much as he can. He probably could have had some way of helping him stand, things like that. But, yeah. But, I mean, good for Eisenhower. Great person. I've never heard anything really bad about him. Good president, did a lot. So, it's a nice picture to see. Tito and his partisans. Oh boy, we're getting to Tito. December 1943. Fighting the Nazi invader. Marshal Tito, leader of the partisan forces fighting the invaders of Yugoslavia, is shown at the left with his favorite pet, a German police dog. While in the picture below, oh boy, there's two pictures here. On the picture below at the left, so this one right here, a patrol of the marshal's forces crosses a wooden bridge below a waterfall on their way to fight the enemy. And the picture below to the right here, a partisan supply column passes through a Bosnian village with supplies for the Patriots. Tito's early operations were of... Oh boy. Dang it. Tito's early operations were of the guerrilla variety, a strategy which was imposed upon him because of his lack of supplies and arms. Later, when he had organized his men and had begun to receive munitions by air from the Americans and British, his legions became an organized army. His tactics in harassing the Nazis in Yugoslavia were so successful that they were forced to keep several divisions badly needed elsewhere, occupied in keeping him under control. Tito's forces were frequently in combat with the men of Mihailovich, who, for reasons not yet made clear, had fallen from grace with the Allies who formerly supported him. So there's Tito. Obviously, a lot of us know Tito becomes the leader of Yugoslavia. Not necessarily the greatest guy, but at least he fought for his country, you could say. But a new handicap for the Nazis to overcome. December 13th, 1943. Bucking their conquerors. In Yugoslavia, General Tito's partisans have been fighting ever since the fall of Mussolini to keep the road open for the flank invasion across the Adriatic, which they felt sure was coming. The Germans, thinking maybe they were right, sent large reinforcements under Marshal Rommel to suppress the guerrillas. In the first part of December, they had succeeded in driving them back into the mountains. In this picture, Nazi soldiers are searching captured guerrillas. Oh, those look like people to me. No, just kidding. But yeah. Obviously they have Rommel. Basically go everywhere. Around Europe, he just kind of shores things up. Eventually, he'll go to the Atlantic Wall, shore that up. But yeah. Yeah, but the Yugoslavians, they fight hard. They're not a part that is a lot talked about. Once again, not a part that's talked about in the United States educational system as much. They'll talk about, oh yeah, they were conquered, but they don't necessarily talk about the fighting that they did. It's mostly because of our relations with Yugoslavia after the war, and the fact that Yugoslavia also no longer exists. Hasn't existed for a while now. But still, the Yugoslavians fought really hard to kick off the Germans. And while they don't necessarily succeed the most, they do succeed in some ways. So, good on them for defending their country at the best of their ability, obviously. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I could improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.